now going to touch the pad. Everybody in the world fused. Yeah, there you go. Morning crew, and welcome back to the Andy Mechanic YouTube channel. I know it's been a few weeks, my apologies, I've been away on the road with work, but on my travels I came across my daughter Charlotte down in Queenstown. I did some work on her little Suzuki Alto. She was very pleased. I did the work, got it all ready for a big trip back up to Auckland. Now whilst I was down there, I popped into the Off-Road Adventures 4x4 and ATV Adventure Centre down there. And they had an old Land Cruiser they were using for some of their off-road trips that they do. They do like, you know, sort of chauffeur-driven tours, that kind of thing, around the mountains in the area of Queenstown. And it's pretty rugged around there. And I was speaking to Brady, and he said to me, "Hey Andy, we've had a problem with this vehicle recently, and the alternator stopped working." And I says, "Well, I'll tell you what. If you put a new one on the vehicle, why don't you give me your old alternator?" And he did. Here we are, look, this is the one. This is the very alternator out of their truck. And I said, let me take a look at it, and it may be that I can fix it for you. There's a few videos already on the YouTube channel covering stripping down an alternator and inspecting the internal components. But this one has got a very different kind of a fail. This one has completely seized up. Look, you can't even turn the spindle. Completely locked. And I have seen this before on some of our little Suzukis back in the UK. They just seized up, burnt the fan belt out, and then of course if you're not careful the engine can overheat because your water pump's not being turned. So I said, look, let me take it back with me. I'll have a look, and maybe, just maybe, I can fix it up so you've got a spare on the shelf, because their vehicles go off into the middle of nowhere and it can be pretty rugged terrain. And they have bookings most days, so they need to be able to get the vehicle back on the fleet if they have a problem, you know, with their alternator or any other parts. So to have a working alternator on the shelf would be a big bonus for them. Anyway, without further ado, because I know you're all excited to take a look inside, let's get it stripped down and find out what the primary fail was. Here we go. Right, first job, let's get that pulley whizzed off. Hopefully it's the right size socket. Okay, get it out of the way now while we can. Oh, it never fails, that tool. Bloody good. And we didn't even need a puller. Huh, that wasn't pre-done. Okay, take a look at this. Well, can you spot what I spotted straight away? That looks like a very poorly bearing, doesn't it? Look at this. We've got bits of metal all around here. The cage has popped out the side. There's some balls missing from this side. Pretty confident we've already found the issue. Just the output bearing on the pulley side. And this is one under quite heavy load, because don't forget the pulley's here, and of course you've got the belt tension pulling the pulley to one side. That's why it's really important that you don't over tension the fan belts, or the drive belts in this case. Okay, well, let's keep going because I want to see the rest of it. Make sure it's going to be, you know, repairable. If it's just a bearing, we're in luck. Nice and cheap, easy fix. Right, said Fred, let's flick it over. It's a bit awkward to work like that, isn't it? Let me find something to sit on there to hold it. We're going to, actually, let's just stick that back on for a second. Jeez, it's not even keyed to the shaft. Right, we'll just buzz that down gingerly, as Eric would say. There we are. Now, it'll stand upright. Okay, so we've got some little 8mm, and we've got that 10mm to take out of there. Wonderful. Right, let's find some tools. Man, it's bloody cold down here. We had our first major frost this morning. So if you notice a bit of water dripping from the ceiling, from the roof of the garage, basically it's condensation. I've got a little heater on in here and it's thawing the place out nicely for us. But it's a while since I stripped an alternator down. It's bloody cool to be making videos again. Really sorry it's taken so long, but what we're doing in the workshop, steelwork and stuff, it's been really hard actually to try and make some videos, but bench mounted videos, not really a problem. Working on vehicles, much more of a problem. Right, let's just undo that one as well. I think it's just some kind of a tab to transfer something across, I don't know. I'll have a look when we get inside. I know it's the wrong screwdriver. You don't have to tell me. Yeah, that little tab can come out there, look. There we go. Probably forget where that goes. To watch the video, won't I? Okay, what else have we got? Well, we're going to need to slacken that off. Let's get it round a bit. Oh, there's a part number for you, if anyone's interested. There you go, look. If you can make that out. A bit of the sticker's worn away, but the part number 27060172250, and it gives us a diagram for the output on the plug being here. And on one of the other videos I did, it shows you how to bench test one of these. I don't think we'll have time to bench test it today. Maybe we'll make a second video testing it once we get the new parts. That's a good idea. That'll work. Right, 10mm spanner. Will a spanner get in there? No, socket. That'll work. Let's use a socket. Do it properly. So today, once this video is done, I want to do a little video talking about some tyres that I had fitted to my trailer, my Arthur Williams trailer, about 4 months ago when I was moving house, or moving the workshop, should I say. And well, they've not quite done what they're supposed to have done, so we need to have a little look. I need your help. Right, so we can get rid of the insulator. It's important. We'll stick that back in there so we know that came from there. Okay, so this end panel should now come off. There we go. Right, so we've got the rectifier here. This is all full of diodes. We've got the regulator, and somewhere buried down there in this pack here will be the brushes. So we can take the little cover off, and that's going to expose the brushes. We don't know how worn they are yet, but we're going to find out. But there's a lot of debris in here. Look at all this. This looks like it's brush dust. It looks like the end of that shaft has broken off a bit as well. There's a bit of plastic that's gone. Interesting. Okay, we've got a load more screws to undo, including the ones that join the rectifier unit to the field windings on the stator around here, look. So we've got 4 of those to undo, and they are posi drive screws. So we'll just crack those off first. Jeez, so frigging cold. I do like taking things apart, especially when they're a fail. Find out what went wrong. Surprised that bearing's failed though. They must have been making a hell of a noise for a while, but it is a diesel engine. It's a big, I think it's like a 4.2 straight 6 or something. Don't think it's the V8. They wouldn't run a V8. Way too heavy on fuel. But somebody didn't hear the telltale signs. There was a problem with the alternator, because they get real noisy for quite a while, and that bearing's under load. Okay, what else have we got? Well, let's undo some more. Jeez. Get the regulator out of the way, and we can get the brush pack at the same time. It's all an integral part on these things. God. Now, we've got movement. Got it. Don't panic. Now, I might be undoing more screws than I need to do. That's alright, they can always go back in again. go. Right. Things are looking loose. Loose is good. Okay. So brush pack and regulator is now out of the way. What have we got? Okay, well, there was no complaint that it wasn't charging, of course, until it seized up. So we won't worry about that too much for now. I don't have my transpond unit anymore. That came from Unitech. So testing the regulator is actually quite difficult without the right piece of kit. But we can test the output. Okay, brushes. What have we got? Well, we don't know how long they are, or how worn they are at the moment. I don't have any specs, but judging by how much they pushed in, they've only got about 2 or 3 mil left. So maybe we'll look at maybe replacing that at the same time, because we can get parts for it, I'm sure. Right, diodes. Well, again, we can do a bench test with that, but, and that's in my other video, so if you want to know how to test one of these, watch the other video and I'll put you a link at the end. There's no point in me repeating myself, so we'll do that. Now, what the hell? It's turning. Oh no, it's not turning, it's just a pulley. Okay, right, let's get this ring of bolts taken off. Now, sometimes you need to use a puller to get this, to split the two casings. Fingers crossed we won't have to do that. If I do, I'll have to make something up, because I haven't got a puller that will fit this particular alternator. It's a bit bigger than the old Suzuki ones. But I remember on the old Patron we managed to get it split quite easily. Okay, so we've got these 4 casing bolts, and they look, yeah, they're captive. These are threaded into the forward casing here. There's no bolt to hold, so they're just studs. So we can just whiz off those 4 bolts. Oh, hang on, wrong size. Jeez, what a novice. Okay. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Right. Let's get those buzzed out. Now I could use a power tool for this, but it's noisy on the camera, isn't it? So many bits. They're actually pretty easy to pull apart, to be honest, alternators. A little bit harder to put back together again. And sometimes you find there's more than one fault. We've already found the front bearings collapsed, and we found the brushes are a bit worn. I've no idea yet. I've not even looked at the slip rings. If the slip rings are worn out, and that's where the brushes make contact on the armature, then really it's a non-starter, because, well, you can fit new slip rings, but it's just not worth the hassle, especially given how cheap alternators are these days. Okay, now we've undone those. We need to split the casing, so I'll suggest we'll pop it in the vise, we'll mount it on here, and then we'll give it some gentle tappy taps, and we'll see if we can get that rear casing to dislodge and come away. Fingers crossed. Okay, here goes. So we've got it mounted in the vise, only on the front casting, so the rear casting's free. Now, it does look like somebody's already been in this alternator, because there's some classic screwdriver leverage marks on the casing. One there, look, as well. So, hey, let's use those. We have movement. Oh, so easy. Right. Now, fortunately, there's obviously no gaskets and stuff, so it doesn't matter too much if we make a bit of a mark. But don't stick your screwdriver through too far, or you could damage the insulation on the stator. And that would be really bad. I wonder if Brady's been in here already. Have you, Brady? You been in this alternator? I don't know. We're going to need 2 screwdrivers. It's a 2 screwdriver problem. Right, one on this side. Every tool has its hammer side, Eric. God, he does some good videos, Eric. Keeps me very well entertained as that gentleman. You just got to slowly keep working it open. There we go. Just leave that in there. Make sure I've undone all the screws, which I'm pretty sure we have. Got some insulators to get rid of. 1, 2, 3. One already down there. Come on then. We've got movement. It's coming slowly. This is where a pull is quite useful. A bit more organised. Got to stay away from that stator. Right, second screwdriver. There we go, look. It's coming now. It's just sat tight on the bearing at the back of the alternator. Let me spin it round for you to see what's going on. There we go. Right. Now then, maybe, just maybe, we can get it out with the rotor. And then we can tap it out of the back bearing. There we go. Ooh, right. Interesting. Now you might notice this is the rotor. It's a basic electromagnet. It's got a single winding in there, and most of it's painted red, whereas some bits are missing their paint. Now that's really bad. That means this shaft has been moving around because that bearing has been collapsing, because don't forget the pulley fits on here, that's where the nut goes. That bearing has had play in it, and it's allowed the rotor to spin out, and there's actually metal fragments against the outside here. So it's been touching onto the stator. That's really bad. So it may well have damaged the stator. So I think the next thing to do is take a quick look at the stator and see what condition that's in, because we may find this isn't repairable. Jeez. So, keeping the camera where it is, let's have a little, oh shit. Where's my little screwdriver? Here we go. Okay, so looking down here, obviously that's the bearing down at the end, and we can see that there's movement on the bearing. It's quite a bit actually, look at that. So it hasn't been supporting the rotor at all, that end of the rotor. Now if you look down here, you can see this part is still quite rusty in there, look, and then further back is shiny. Now this isn't part of the circuit, these are just pieces of steel that are all clamped together to you know, accentuate the magnetic field. And these are the windings from the stator. Now it's the windings we're really looking at. Oh, and it's been catching up there as well, look. So it's been running way out of true. There's a piece of metal, part of the bearing probably. So maybe the stator has survived. Maybe. Okay, right. Let's whip that bearing out. So we're going to need 8mm socket again and get that end plate taken off. Geez, the lighting in this garage is terrible at the moment. Okay, so then crack them off with this. Oh shit, hang on. Are they smaller than an 8? They are. Much smaller. Right, bear with me. crack open the smaller socket sets. See what we've got. Let's try a 7. 7. Yes, that's what it is. Right, we'll have one of those. We'll have one of them. Undo mode, perfect. Right, crack on now. Get rid of those little insulators. Because really we're just pulling the whole thing apart to see if we can fix it, aren't we? And if we find something that's terminal, and it's all looking possible at the moment. One. And you can see actually here, look, another reason why you need a puller really, is if you look on the side where my screwdriver's been going, I'm being very, very close to the windings on the stator, and you start touching that and scratching the insulation off or damaging those wires, it's a big problem. And again, around there, look, very, very close. It can be done, but you've got to be really careful. Okay. It'd be pretty cool to get it all fixed for them. I can soon knock up a puller, it's not a problem. Okay. Right. One end plate. So that retains the bearing. Now, I'll be very careful getting that bearing out. We're going to put it back in the vise because we can't just sit it on the vise on the bench and give it a bray down because it's going to obviously damage the stator. And I don't want to take the stator out of this casting. Looks pretty snug in there. We'll leave that alone. So we'll mount it in the vise. And we'll get a punch. And fortunately, look, Toyota who made it? Let's have a look. Yeah, Toyota gave us a couple of little notches here for the outer race to give it a little tap and hopefully get that bearing out. Right, my apologies. There's probably going to be some earthquakes coming your way, but you can see down here the bearing, and it should be coming towards you if we can get it out. Oh, it's loose. Well, there's one bit. Fragments. Now it's important when you're tapping a bearing out to try and do it squarely, otherwise you can damage the housing that it sits in. This one's not that easy because it's in 1,000 bits. Okay, so what have we got? Well, that's part of the remaining cage, which is completely screwed. Look at the state of that. I'll have a look at that bit later on. Okay. Some kind of steel seals. Any more bits? Yes. So you've got to remember that some of those parts will have gone through the alternator. Not good. Because sat just behind here is a fan on the actual rotor that draws air in. And of course it's also going to draw in the bits of metal. So all these bits of metal will have gone through the alternator. Jeez. Not good at all. Okay, right, back to the bench. There we go. Sorry, camera problems. Right, so you can see now that because the race has gone, sorry, the cage has gone, which is not keeping the bearings equally spaced. And look at the state of that one. That's been pretty hot, look. It's almost blued. Jeez, okay. Because those ball bearings have been able to move all to one side, it's allowed all this movement to occur, and that's basically allowed the rotor to flap around and start hitting the side of the stator. Oh, look at that. Fantastic. Oh, lovely. So there's a lot of welding going on here where the metal's got so hot it's transferred from the ball, which has probably been stopped. It's been squealing around and bits of metal have transferred onto the race. Here, look, onto the inner race. The outer race doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's not great for a bearing, but it's not anything like the state of the inner race. Bugger. Okay, well, we can get bearing numbers off here, hopefully. If not, I've got some measuring to do. Can't see any numbers on that side. Oh, Toyota, you've done me proud here, look. No numbers. Alright, so we can measure that up. Inner and outer ID. Thickness, dead easy. I'll get the micrometer for the verniers for that. And this is some of the shrapnel. And I bet you it's not all here. Oh, look at the state of that one. It used to be round. Big chunks missing out of it. Oh man, this thing would have been making a squealing noise for ages before it finally failed. God, terrible. If that was one of my staff driving that, I'd be going mad. Okay, well, what next? Well, we need to have a look at those slip rings, don't we? So far, it's fixable. That's the plan. Oakley dokley. Right, I did manage to get the end casing off. Just give it a good yuck in the vise and managed to get it out of the way. Now, let's have a little look. Got some kind of retainer in this groove that seems to be a bit broken. The hell? Oh, it's like a little snap ring. It's broken. Obviously, it should be one piece. Don't think we need that. Okay. Dry. Really dry. And as AVE says, you've got to load the bearing up to test it for notchiness. Now, obviously, we're going to put a new one in anyway. But this one actually feels not too bad. But it will get a new one. Now, where's my pick? Bear with me. Jeez, it's so frigging cold today. See if we can get that seal out. Oh, like a pro. Yeah, real dry. So you can see all the grease has dried up. That's what's remaining of the factory grease. Pretty much all gone. Doesn't really have the consistency of... It's more like a paste than a grease. Not so good. And now you can hear it's actually quite noisy. So this alternator would have been really noisy. Okay, so what do we need to do to fix this? Well, slip rings. How do they look? Well, they don't look too bad, but they do look quite worn. You can see here, look, this is the shaft diameter, the inner diameter of the shaft here, look, from there to there. So if we were to measure across there, and then measure across the slip rings, it will tell us how worn they are. I'm not over impressed by that, but hey, they haven't worn through yet, so it should still make a spare alternator. Okay, so that's looking okay. So what do we need? We need 2 bearings and ideally a set of brushes. And this alternator should last for a while. It's not going to be as good as a new one, obviously, but it should last. So I need to order a couple of bearings. I'll make some measurements on those. Let's get the verniers out now. Now this one here, to get this off the shaft, we're going to need to use a small puller. And you can see here, look, they've put us a little indent in the shaft to locate the puller. And then we can pull that bearing off the shaft, and then I can measure the ID. I think that's part of the bearing. I think it is. Well, it's going to come off with the bearing regardless, isn't it? Okay, so what we'll do, because I can't get that one off at the moment, we'll get the verniers and I'll show you how to measure up this bearing. Right, verniers. Dum, 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 dum. Right, turn him on. 0, make sure there's no crap down the thingies. 0 again. There we go, look, right. So the OD, the outside diameter of that bearing, is upside down, isn't it? Sorry, people. Let's do it that way around. Is 52 millimeters. Well, that should be a pretty standard size. Cool. And the width of the bearing, God, do it on camera, Mr. Young, terrible. The width of the bearing will be 16. Okay, now the ID, that's this piece here, the internal diameter is across there. So again, we'll just hook that onto there. Make sure it's seated properly. Right, it's saying 16.9. Let's just check where. There we go. Look, we'll zero that again. 0. I've cut my nails. There we go. 0. Okay. Jeez, mister, what's going on? It should be a pretty round figure. I'd be tempted to say 17. Tell you what, let's measure the shaft. Right, so that bearing sits on this shaft, so we'll just zero the verniers again. Not over here today, are they? And then we'll just go across the shaft like that. Yeah, I will go with this. Well, jeez. Yeah, 17. You see that? Just about. 17 millimeters ID. Perfect. Okay, so 52 OD across there, look. 52. And then we had 16 across here. And then we had 17. Where the hell it's gone now? Where did you put it? There. ID. Perfect. Okay, right. I think we've done all we can here today. So it looks like there's going to be a part 2 to this video. There's going to be the fix. You know, put the new bearings on, the reassembly, and then probably a bench test. So I'm going to have to get some new parts next week. We're going to need one of these bearings. And we've already measured that one up, and we're going to need one of the other bearings, which is still on the shaft. There we are, look, on the rotor. I've got to get that pulled off and get that measured up. Bit dubious about the slip rings, but I think they'll last for a while. And while we're on, I'll get some new brushes. Now I'll need the part number. Which side is it on? It's not on that side, it's on the other side. Hang on. I'll need that part number again there, look, to match up the brushes. Shouldn't be too hard. So in the meantime, I'll get that bearing pulled off this morning and get it measured up, and then all these bits can go nice and neatly into a box. Probably wait a couple of weeks when I get a chance to get the parts and time to sit down and put this thing back together. So, hope you enjoyed the video. That's it for this one. If you enjoyed it, then why not click on the, I think it's up that side, subscribe button. You'll see a little gear icon turn up. Click on the gear icon and then you can tick the box and turn on notifications. Now friends at YouTube, they'll send you an email as and when I upload any new videos, and that way you won't miss out on part 2. Don't forget, there'll also be a link at the end of this video to the major alternator strip down and internal component testing. Very useful video and one of my top videos. It's been very helpful to a lot of people around the world. And that's what these videos are all about. They come to you completely free of charge. You'll also find me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Feel free to message me through any of those portals, people. But if you wouldn't mind, first point of contact through the comments here on YouTube, because let's face it, that's where the videos are. Now, there is also a Patreon page where if you want to help support the Andy Mechanic channel, you can do. There's a few supporters on there already, and for those that have supported the channel in the past and present, thank you very much. It really is much appreciated. There'll also be some new information going on the Patreon page soon, a bit more behind the scenes stuff, up and coming projects, and right now you'll be wondering why there's all this yellow stuff going on. We're currently putting some steel work in the workshop so I can remove a retaining wall that holds up the roof basically. And if I don't put the steel work in, then the roof will fall down, and we can't be having that, can we? Okay crew, well that's about it. Until next time, cheers, over and out. And we get the flip up again.
Oh.
Really?